in trying to be free and spontaneous, you're constantly a prisoner of your own kind of regret and like things you haven't done. You get the structure and you have the freedom to be spontaneous. He was in his 60s. We started off and he was deadlifting sort of 30 kilos. 8 years later, he's pulling 140 in competition at 75 years old. A really great chef actually once said to me that his mantra was, do the things you need to do before you do the things you want to do. And he applied that to everything.
Today's guest is Ben Jennings. He, let's say, playfully calls himself a failed chef, despite having worked at a Michelin-star restaurant. Or two or three. Okay. So not a failed chef. And for the last 12-ish years, he has been a personal trainer. So for today's episode, we would like to dig deeper into all the learnings from both the kitchen and personal training, especially as well into mindset, and also a lot of learnings from his clients, especially the elderly, with a final little treat at the end when it comes to plant medicine, whatever that means. I guess you just have to stay on the episode. With that said, maybe Ben can give a little introduction himself.
Okay, so the failed chef thing is obviously, as you said, it's a playful little thing. I did work. I was very, very fortunate enough to work at very, very high level kitchens for amazingly good chefs. It was never in me to be an amazingly good chef myself. So I kind of struggled through that environment, underperforming a lot of times. I eventually became better at the job. As a kind of general rule, I really struggled. I was definitely not the strongest team member. So I was, as I say, I was the kind of the weaker team member of a very strong team, if that makes sense, working at a very high level. It was always the thing that drew me to working at that level was always a desire to, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. But there was I was very young. There was a huge naivety in terms of what it really takes to work at that level. Because the things that you think you need are not as important as maybe the things that you think you might not need, right? We can talk a little bit more about that later. And then, I eventually transitioned into personal training, which I've done sort of with relative success for the last 12 years and still do to this day.
Right. Thank you for the introduction. With that said, we have, in cooking terms, maybe too little amuse-bouche tasters. With that said, I like to call them the real questions. Mm-hmm. So you answer them as if they were real. So you have like 30 seconds, not a forever long question.
Sure. It's going to be very difficult.
But just maybe just in a high level, something that the viewers, the listeners can take with them from this episode.
Sure.
Even when they leave within 5 minutes.
Okay. Yep.
All right. The first one has 2 parts. I'll let you just pick which one. What would you say are the main skills of a chef or a personal trainer that other people can take with them in their own life?
So I'll do both separately. So with a chef, I would say it's incredibly hard work ethic, incredibly physically and mentally strong and resilient, because eventually those 18-hour days will grind anybody down. Organizational skills, fundamental. You could have the best palate in the world. You could be the most creative person in the world. Like, if you are not organized, you will sink. And then you can flip that and say somebody might not be the most creative. They may not have the best palate in the world, but if they're super, super organized, that person will be a much better member of a kitchen team. So I'd say those things are pretty important. People do talk about passion. You have to have passion for the job. I don't know really what I think about that. So I think it's more like just drive, determination, and the things that I said there. Yeah.
And what are the main learnings of a personal trainer that you think people can use in their own
Most
life?
Important, I think, is empathy. Empathy in the sense of you truly have to care about the person that you are working with and see them as a person and want the best for them. If you have that as your fundamental, you will succeed. You have to have an absolute desire to want to help people. That's if you've got that, your skill sets, all that stuff can be learned. But first and foremost, you've got to want to do good, and you've got to want to help the person you're working with.
That's very interesting, especially because online, I mean, they keep on hating on so-called cookie cutter programs, which is pretty much they dish out the same program to anyone who signs up. So yeah, I think that's a pretty cool answer. And to be honest, that's a very similar answer that I actually got from another episode with an employment lawyer who says empathy and understanding people is, besides knowing law, is the most important. So it's interesting how that overlaps. One more question, which this is from a post of yours on your Instagram, which I'll link to this episode if people want to reach out to you. In that post, you say, structure breeds freedom. What does that mean?
So I think you're referring to the post about competition prep. Yeah. So I'll try and articulate it as quickly as possible. Most people think that structure and discipline limits you. So if I could relate it to say a client, for example, who's has they have a bad relationship with food, and the idea of structuring their eating seems very restrictive to them because they enjoy food and they think that enjoyment is going to get taken away. But actually having a structure that helps their poor relationship with food, let's say, actually then gives them the freedom to not feel bad for certain things. And that's kind of one area where it's applied. The other is if you have structures around certain things, I certainly found during competition prep, it helps you manage your time a lot better because there are just certain things that are non-negotiables. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then often it would be like things around food and training, and it's like, oh, I'll kind of do this when I feel like it, so it becomes wishy-washy. Whereas if you're like, right, this happens at this time in the day, this is what I eat every single day, then that's something you don't have to think about at all anymore. So you then have the freedom to focus on other things. It's another way of thinking about it.
Yeah, the reason that one stuck out to me as well, partially because I'm part German and we love to structure things.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I'm a spontaneous person, but I actually feel like structure helps me be spontaneous.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if I know have all my fundamentals done or the things I want to do, gym, work, career, whatever, podcasting, then I know, well, this Saturday I can just do whatever I feel like on that day.
Yeah. So a good way to think about it. A really great chef actually once said to me that his mantra was, do the things you need to do before you do the things you want to do. And he applied that to everything, work, life, etc. So if you think about that in the sense that you've just said, if everything that you need to do is done, you can do whatever you want with your free time. Whereas more often than not, when people are just spontaneous without structure, there's constantly things in the back of your mind where you're like, oh, I need to get this done, but I'm not getting it done because I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
So in trying to be free and spontaneous, you're constantly a prisoner of your own kind of regret and like things you haven't done. You get the structure, you get those things done, and then you have the freedom to be spontaneous.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing. Actually, this is a perfect segue into your life in the kitchen and your learnings there.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions I actually
digging up traumas here, but go on.
Well, okay. If we can make you cry, that's a win, I guess. In one of the quick questions, I was actually going to ask you, do you have any tips for anyone to use within that kitchen? But you said something else, that because a friend of mine who used to work in the kitchen, I used to live together with him, and if he would cook a meal, the kitchen would be clean by the time he finished cooking.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, how is that done? But earlier you said one of the things someone needs to succeed in the kitchen is just hard work. And now you also mentioned what that chef told you of do the things you need to do before the things you want to do. is, for example, having a clean kitchen or a clean station in your kitchen if you work professionally. Is that just constantly doing what you don't want to do and just clean this as soon as you have a second, or what's the trick?
Generally they say clean as you go. Clean as you go is the phrase, the mantra, if you like, that a lot of people will use. So whereas if you're cooking at home, you might be prepping something and you'll go, I'll peel these vegetables, I'll do this, and then I'll start doing something else. Then I'll do something else. Where people tend to be different in the professional environment is it's like, okay, I've done this one job. I'm going to quickly clean everything for 90 seconds, start the next job. I'm going to clean everything, start the next. So you're constantly cleaning up after yourself between jobs, which is difficult and exhausting and kind of, but it becomes habit. So if you watch really, really great chefs, it's almost effortless how they will both be, it's almost like they're working and cleaning up after themselves in the same time. So everything is like super organized.
But actually, that makes so much sense because you're completing a task completely. Because if you don't do the cleaning, it's like, yeah, you do the fun part, but you leave out.
And also, you're starting the second task in a not clean environment, so a not pristine environment.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm starting the next job, but I've still kind of got this little bit of rubbish on my chopping board. My knife is still dirty. Maybe something is spilt on there. It's like, no, every single time you start, it's as if you're starting everything afresh. So it's like a constant reset while having lots of things on the go. That's why it requires, so much organization, mental discipline, and all of the stuff I didn't quite have enough of, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. With that said, maybe you can just give a quick overview. What would a day look like for a chef, so that we can maybe dig a bit into the learnings with context.
Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about what would be referred to as like a CDP, which is a chef de partie. So somebody who works on a section, sections being, kitchen is made up of sections. So you would have maybe 1 or 2 vegetable sections. Yeah. You would have fish and meat sections. Then you might have hot starters, cold starters. Then you would have a separate pastry section, i.e. the desserts. And what happens is the starters tend to take care of themselves. The fish and meat and vegetable are responsible for the other courses. If that makes sense. So they're kind of 4 people working together to bring the main course in. And the starters are doing their own thing, pastry are doing their own thing, something like that. So as a chef on whatever your section is, you have all the things on the menu that you have to prepare in that day, right? So you would come in the morning, you would check, have all the things that you've ordered arrived first and foremost. And then that could be where the first thing goes wrong. Like something hasn't arrived. Yeah. Great, we don't have this. You would put all the veg away, tidy, organized. At high levels, things are broken down in terms of like put into boxes of all different sizes of vegetables and stuff like that. You would then begin prepping your day, which starts about, so you're in at about 7, let's say you put everything away, done by 7:30, get your section set up, and then from sort of about 7:30 through to 11 o'clock, you're prepping everything for the lunch and maybe for the dinner service. At 11:30, you have a break, 15, 20 minutes, go outside, kitchen gets completely cleaned down.
Is that you who cleans the kitchen or someone else?
So everyone cleans their sections,
okay,
and then you have porters who will clean the floor. Everybody goes outside, come back in, lunch service begins at 12, 3 hours of cooking everything to order, finishes maybe 2 hours, maybe finishes like 2:30. Again, clean your section down, go outside for 15 minutes, kitchen gets cleaned, come back in, a few hours to prep, ready for the 5 o'clock start. 6 o'clock start it would normally be. Again, a little break before you do that, and then from 6 o'clock through till 10 or whatever, cooking for the evening, clean everything down. If you're lucky, you're out before 11 o'clock. Not so lucky, you might be out a little bit later. If you worked on the dessert section, pastry, maybe you're out 11:30, maybe 12 o'clock. So, and then back in again 7 the next day to do the same thing.
If your commute would be a minute you would still barely get your
It's sleep, yeah.
6 hours of sleep.
And in central London, back in those days, if you're working in Mayfair, you definitely ain't living around the corner.
Yeah.
You're living in, bloody zone 3 somewhere, and you're taking a night bus that takes an hour and a half to get you home. So somebody told me in the very early days, if you want to do this job, get used to the fact that you're probably going to be getting 4 hours sleep a night.
That sounds worse than being like an investment banker. Where
I don't know. Were you an investment banker?
No.
No.
I don't own a gilet. I do own a gilet. What's is the compensation like competitive considering the work you put in? That sounds like.
Yeah. So back in the previous days of doing it, it's changed a little bit now from what I understand. It has changed a little bit now, but there was so much, it was so popular. So many people wanted to go and work at these amazing restaurants for these phenomenal chefs that if you didn't want to do it, there's a pile of CVs of 18 to 20-year-olds who are just waiting to come in and have a go. And when you're in your late teens, early 20s, even mid 20s, I'd probably say all the way up to your 30s, you can do that. You can survive on 4 hours sleep a night for months and months and months at a time. Like, it's not healthy, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And it's only later on in life that it kind of really hits you. But there's no compensation. It's just, it was just always an unwritten rule of this is how hard you worked. The reality is your contract didn't say you were going to do that. Your contract would say, oh, you'll get, you start at 8 o'clock in the morning and you finish at 10 o'clock and you get a 3-hour break in the afternoon. You never got that 3-hour break because there was always too much work to do, and you never started at 8 o'clock. Everyone always went in at 7 o'clock because there just wasn't enough hours in the day to do the work. So it was just an unwritten rule that everybody followed.
Yeah. You actually just mentioned something that you also mentioned in the other podcast with Alfie PT, which I can recommend, especially if someone really wants the story of Ben Jennings, because they go in depth there. I'll link it at the end of this episode. But you mentioned now and in that episode not cutting corners. And you said one of the main things you learned there, or at the point where you said you were a competent chef, is where you learned not to cut corners and take responsibility.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yep.
What does that look like? And do you still apply that these days? And how do you apply it, for example, in other parts of your life?
Yeah, good question. So it's slightly different having that in aspects of my life myself. So just to backtrack, in that environment, you are working for somebody else. And whether people like to admit it or not, the primary driver in those environments is fear. It's fear of fucking up, fear of like failing, not being good enough, all of that. You're ultimately trying to prove yourself. You're trying to do this really, really difficult job to this high standard. So in those moments, something I certainly did, maybe other people do as well, is it's like, well, rather than own up and say like, hey, I'm not ready, I need some help, I've messed this thing up, you kind of try and cut a little corner because you think, well, as long as I get everything ready in time, it will be okay. But then you've kind of got ready, but something isn't quite right. Okay, something isn't. So you've kind of cut a corner to present this idea that, oh, I am set, but it always comes back on you. So then the responsibility side of it was just saying like, okay, well, I'm just going to say that I haven't done this thing, or I've messed this thing up, or I need some help, and I'm not afraid to take a bollocking for that, or I'm not afraid to say, hey, I couldn't quite do it. So that was where the change came in the kitchen. I think when you work for yourself, as I do now, that's not quite the same because you hold yourself to your own standards. But it's not the same as working for a person who you are kind of terrified of, because that's what it was in that environment. So what I then learned, the main takeaway was learning to kind of own up to what you don't know is actually how you get better very, very quickly. So being comfortable enough to say, hey, I'm really new at this. I don't really know what I'm doing. This person's an expert. I can learn from them. I guess that's how I apply it to what I do now, is being comfortable enough to know that, well, I don't have to be the best. I can make mistakes. I'm still learning. I own my mistakes. things with clients where I might say, hey, 12 months ago I was saying this exercise might be good for this and this, but now I've learned this, and it actually conflicts what I thought I knew then, but I'm okay with saying I was wrong back then.
Out of your experience, do both clients in the personal trainer space as well, chef or manager in the kitchen or colleagues in the kitchen, do they normally take that well if you admit, hey, I've made a mistake or I learned something new, now I would recommend this?
They probably take it better than, well, no, they definitely, in the kitchen environment, it was taken better than trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I mean there was a very fundamental moment where I learned this, because I would always because I hated the idea that I'd done something wrong, so I would always try and have an excuse. And that's the worst thing. It's the worst person to be. Like, you've got an answer for everything, but you're messing everything up. Like, that's an infuriating person to be. And I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on the podcast.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, so I remember one day messing something up, and it's one of my superiors, my mentor on the pastry section. He was kind of about to lose his temper. He said, like, what's happened here? What have you done? And I remember I said I've completely fucked it up. And he said, why have you fucked it up? I said, because I'm just a complete, and I'm just going to do it again. And he looked at me and he said, well, that's the most honest thing you've ever said. Go on, do it again. And it was like, okay, so there was no kind of bollocking that happened there, but it was just like, okay, that's kind of all I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear an excuse for this, that, and the other. And as soon as you kind of adopt that mind frame of like, I've just messed this up, but it's okay, let me do it again. It's quite a liberating thing. And it, as I say, it does get you better very, very quickly to just say, yep, I just got it wrong, so let me try again, rather than, oh, I got it wrong, but it wasn't my fault. It was this, it was this, it was this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the episode with Alfred as well, that sounds like that was something that helped you transition into personal training and picking that up. How did you transition into becoming a personal trainer? Was it a clean cutoff? Did you do it 50-50?
Yeah, very, very, very clean cutoff. I had a small amount of savings, and
Small amount of savings means how many months of?
Yeah, I mean, this was going back like 20, so about 14, 15 years. I think I maybe had about £10,000 set aside.
Okay.
For this thing, and I was like, okay, this money is going to pay for my personal training course, and it's going to cover me for however many months of kind of paying my rent, and assuming that I'm not going to make any income while I build. I was under no illusions that it was going to take a long period of time to build a business.
Yeah.
And so I went, okay, this is how much I've got saved. This is how many months I can survive on making no money. Let me just have a go at this. I did get a part-time job. This is advice I always give to PTs. I got a part-time job at weekends that I absolutely hated. I intentionally got a job that I really, really hated, just to bring extra money in, so that every hour I was just doing this part-time job, I was like, if I want to stop doing this, I've got to make the PT thing work. So every hour I was there, I was like, when I get back into that gym and I've got all of my free time, I am going to focus on that business.
Yeah. How did you get your first clients?
I was very fortunate that somebody recommended a client to me he was actually a chiropractor that I'd been and done some treatment with myself for about 6 to 8 months of kind of rehab on my spine because of what the kitchen life had done to my back. And then he said, "Oh, you're becoming a PT. I've got a client for you." So he gave me this first client, and the rest, it was quite difficult because I started in a studio. I didn't start in a commercial gym. And
would it be easier to start in a commercial gym?
100%, because you have footfall. So what you generally tend to do as a personal trainer is you can get employment as a personal trainer. So there are some companies that will pay you a salary, you do some clients and you get a little bit extra. Or you can go, you get a little bit extra for the clients you train.
Is that the likes of Pure Gym?
No, that's the likes of Nuffield and places like that. They salary their PTs. The people pay the company for the personal training, and the company pays the personal trainer a small percentage based on sessions they deliver.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Simple model. So some places do that, right? Other places just do a rent where you, as a personal trainer, you pay a rent to use the gym floor and have access to all the members. But it's completely and utterly, it's your business. You're self-employed. You run everything. So those are kind of the two models that exist. For me, the model that I did at first was like the first one. I was employed by this studio but I wasn't actually employed. It was that people pay the studio for PT sessions. They have other PTs there, and I was kind of like a trainee PT, and then they pay you per sessions that you deliver. And I think at the time I got about £10 on each session. And there was very little footfall there because it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. So the way I used to get clients was people would come in, they would ask if it was a gym, and I would say, no, it's a PT studio, and then just try and show them around, explain to them. And somehow I managed to build a small business doing that, which is very, very difficult. I wouldn't recommend anybody starts in a studio. The reason I stayed there is because there was 3 or 4 excellent PTs working there, top level people I still know to this day and hold in very high regards. And I understood the importance of having mentors, because I trained in the likes of Pure Gym, LA Fitness, things like that. At the time, I'd seen the caliber of PT in there. I was like, well, I'm not going to learn anything in that environment. I'm going to stay here and learn from these guys. So I valued education in the early days over making money.
Yeah. You just mentioned mentors. How would you recommend anyone works with a mentor or even a PT? Because a PT in the end is just a paid mentor.
Sure. Yeah. So are you referring to who are you referring to there? Are you referring to PT clients or people who are PTs who want a mentor?
Let's start with PTs who want a mentor.
So if somebody is a PT and they want to be mentored by another PT, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, how do you maximize learning from your mentor?
So you can hire their services and be treated like one of their clients. So you can take yourself through the process that ultimately you're going to take clients through is one way to do it. The other one is just if you're in a work environment where you have a mentor, just ask them questions all day, every day. That's what I did, to the point where they'll just think you're completely annoying and tell you to go away and leave them alone. But everything is just questions, right? What do you think about this? And I would ask them what they would do based on kind of their experience and their knowledge. So you might not agree with it, but if they are better, if they're further along, they'll have a way of doing things that is probably better than yours as somebody who's inexperienced.
Yeah.
It won't be the best way, but it will be a better way. So when you find a mentor in the early days, do things their way and kind of form your own ideas around it, rather than trying to use them to reinforce your ideas that you have.
Is mindset-wise anything required, like humbleness or?
100%. Yeah, you have to, no matter what age you are, when you're learning. So this is something I believe is whatever age you are, approach everything as if you're a child learning it for the first time.
Yeah. And then maybe before we go into how to best work with the PT, what does it mean to be a PT? And how does that compare maybe to being a sports-specific coach?
I think a personal trainer is somebody who can get the best possible outcome for any person, regardless of that person's goals. Whereas a specific type of coach gets a very specific set of goals that is not quite applicable to all people. So it's almost like they have a framework. They have call it a matrix, a way of doing things. And if you fit into that, you will get great results. If you don't, you're not the right person to work with that coach. A good personal trainer is somebody who should be able to train anybody and adapt themselves in a way that suits that individual. So you become personal to that individual. So you're almost like a jack of all trades.
Is that as well where maybe empathy falls in, which you mentioned early on?
Yeah, because you if you're a specific coach with a specific way of doing things, and somebody's not following, sorry, your way of doing things, and you just go, right, well, you're not doing it, so goodbye, I'm not the right coach for you. Versus like, well, why is this person not following this? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So you really need to stay open-minded in terms of...
massively. Okay. The more you get to know the person, you adapt your approach based on what's going to get through to them.
Yeah.
That's what being a personal trainer is to me.
Yeah. And in terms of personal training, then, what is your brand? What kind of clients do you have? Or what kind of clients have you worked with throughout your whole career?
So general pop clients mainly. I've never done sports specific training. Well, I have, but in small doses. So I've worked with people who you can call athletes. I've worked with people who have wanted to do competitions, photo shoots and things like that. But general pop clients, I refer to the people who are just at a point in their life where they want their exercise and nutrition to be a little bit better, and they want to integrate it a bit more into their life. That's the simplest way I can put it. I'm moving now towards working a lot more with elderly population. I find that hugely rewarding. I think they are in some respects the best clients to work with. But yeah, that would really be it. It's just general pop clients that just want to feel better, look better, move a little bit better, and that's it. It sounds very generic. It sounds very wishy-washy, but that's what it is. I'm not an anything specific coach.
When this general pop client works with you, what is the best way for them to maximize the time they have with you?
In terms of the sessions within the actual training session?
Within the actual training sessions as well, with what they take home.
Okay,
What should they... Let's assume they want to pay you as little as possible.
And get as much as possible for it.
And get as much as possible.
Do your homework. Obviously, do your homework. If you want to lose weight, and let's take that for example, if you want to lose weight and you are coming in for your PT sessions, but you're not doing anything about your nutritional habits outside of it, despite being told, given guidelines, educated, all of those things, then you're not wasting your time, because you'll get something out of the PT session, but you're not maximizing your time. So a good little thing on this, something I learned really early on from one of my mentors is, see if this kind of makes sense to you, if you can resonate with this. A lot of people think that they come to these PT sessions and that will allow them to go and do whatever they want in their life, and they don't need to worry about other things. So, I can eat what I want, I can drink as much booze as I want, I can do X, Y, and Z, because as long as I do my PT session, that cancels it all out. And I kind of hate my PT session, but it's something I do so I can enjoy my life and have no discipline there. My discipline is going to my PT session and doing these workouts that I find really uncomfortable. Okay? It should actually be the other way around. They should take the discipline into their own life, so that when they come to these PT sessions, that becomes something they enjoy, because they see themselves get stronger, they see their numbers move up. And if you can get people into that way of thinking, where they're excited to come in because they're like, maybe I'm going to lift a bit heavier this week, maybe I'm going to shave a couple of seconds off my time on the cardio, then they're onto a winner.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's good, that one. It's good. I learned that really on. I was like, oh, wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because I always like to take everything back to, I started going to a therapist like a year and a half ago. And I mean, it's the same thing there. Even though you don't have the part of the diet that you need to take home, you still need to do the reflection at home and take new things to work on next time.
Yeah.
So it's like to maximize what you have with a therapist, which is just another type of coach for mental instead of for physical. Yeah, the homework part is really important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. All right. And then you said especially you like to focus on elderly people right now.
Yeah.
What is it? Why do you like to focus on the elderly people? And what can you also learn from the elderly people?
So generally elderly people who obviously have the disposable income to afford personal training. No, not everybody has it. They've generally been fairly successful in their life. So anybody who's been successful at something has something to give, something to share. They're going to be a fairly interesting person. I mean, it's not to say people aren't interesting if they're not successful.
Also, elderly, what do we define as elderly here? Is it retired people? Is it anyone 50 plus?
I think nowadays 50 plus people get offended if you call them elderly.
Yeah.
So maybe say like 60 plus.
Okay.
Yeah, retired. So they're always really interesting people. They have the wisdom that we don't have as younger people, and they've learnt patience, and they have a lot less ego. So there's no kind of expectations of wanting things really quickly and how things should be. The small wins to the elderly population are massive in a sense of, so if we compare it to, say, a young person, they're not going to be happy until they double their bench press or double their squat or something like that. Yeah. Whereas, somebody who's a lot older sees the numbers going up by small amounts and they're really happy with that. They also generally tend to have little ailments and things like that if you can fix and you can get them moving a bit better and pain-free, you can really see how that impacts their lives in such an amazing way, because it gives them more mobility and freedom that perhaps they would have thought is lost as they get older. I think there's a stigma that as you get older, you just can't be as physically active.
Yeah.
Whereas actually you can, you get somebody training, get them a little bit fitter, and all of a sudden they're more active than they've been in years.
Yeah.
And so little things like that are really, really rewarding, because you are truly improving the quality of somebody's life. And for a personal thing from me, one of the things I really dislike is I think what we don't do very well in Great Britain with our governments, etc., is we don't take care of our elderly. I think they're kind of left to just, pay into the system all their life and then get forgotten about. And I think that's a tragedy. I think a society should take care of its elderly people, and it should respect its elderly people. And so for me to get to train those people and make their quality of life better is that gives me a real sense of doing something meaningful.
Yeah. Maybe as well to give some perspective for people to know what it's like to train an elderly person, or maybe to see what their potential is like. Mm-hmm. Because I think people may have seen Instagram reels or YouTube of 80 plus people lifting a lot of weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a client called Big Dave.
Big Dave, yeah. David Lester, Big Dave.
Yeah. He actually attended one of the powerlifting mock meets that we organized at Georgia.
Yeah.
And I remember he deadlifted 140 kilos.
Yes. Oh, so I don't think you were there at that one. So your first meet,
second one.
Yeah, they did a second one after you organized that meet. It was so successful they did a second one. And we were going to try and go for 130 this time, and he pulled 140 on the day.
How old was he at the time?
About 75 with a body weight of about 75 kilos.
1 kilo per age.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But you that's almost a double body weight deadlift. Yeah. And by anybody, this is your area of expertise, but a double body weight deadlift
really good.
is good by anybody's standards. You're not elite level, but it's very, 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 very good. And to say that he's doing that at 75 years old, without a belt as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Without a belt, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And
I think it's more than pretty good.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I didn't want to be too, but he is somebody that's a process that's happened over about 8 years. And, from when he was in his 60s, we started off and he was deadlifting sort of 30 kilos, had some mobility issues in his hips and back that we made better, got him able to perform the movement. And then, as I said, because he has the patience, he was always happy. 5 kilos extra for him. It's like, that's great. He's happy with that. So the patience, the discipline, the wisdom was there. And then just 8 years later, he's pulling 140 in competition at 75 years old. And I think that should be inspirational for every person listening to know that that's a person who has maxed out one of their main power lifts at the older stage that they are. That makes sense. So it's not like, oh, I was lifting that in my 20s. It's like, no, I didn't lift that till I was 75. So it should be inspirational. It is. I find it inspirational anyway.
I think it's really cool. I'm 32 and I'm already freaking out. It's like, how much time do I have left to beat my own personal records? But
43 years apparently.
Yeah, but
a whole other lifetime to still get to your biggest lift.
Splitting this question as well into two. If someone is older and starts lifting, what would be like the main advice? Are there common mistakes or errors you see them do? And this is not maybe lifting technique, but it's more like things they should maybe consider in their life. Like if we take Big Dave as an example, what makes him so successful at his age when it comes to improving himself physically?
All boxes ticked, right? So he tells me he has the same breakfast every single day. He has a high protein, high fat breakfast. He makes sure to try and get protein with all of his meals. He does his 10,000 steps regardless every day. So he does his NEAT activity. As he's gotten older, he's decreased the amount of alcohol that he drinks. And he trains consistently the same times every single week. And he also does his own cardio by himself. So he does his conditioning, he does his NEAT activity, and he does his 3 resistance sessions every single week. So the same as what you would apply to anybody who's training. He does his mobility, he does all of his kind of foam rolling and stuff like that. Now, it's a little bit different because he's retired. He has the time to do that. But that would be, and anybody who's getting into it, who's a little bit older, have a bit of patience. Take the ego completely out of it, because especially if you're somebody who lifted heavier when you were younger, you're not going to get straight back to that. You could get back to it, but you're not going to get straight back to it in the first 3 weeks. So patience, lifting a little bit lighter, taking care of your recovery, sleep, protein, certain supplements as you get older as well.
Any recommendations? Steroids.
Yeah, just loads and loads of anabolic steroids the older you get. I think everybody can benefit from creatine.
Okay.
Yeah, even if you don't train, creatine, the more and more research that comes out, it just seems like an amazing supplement. For males, zinc, magnesium for recovery, a good multivitamin generally for everybody. I think ashwagandha is a good one for people to take at nights, a little bit of de-stress. But I don't want to get too much into that because supplements is like very different for very different people. So if you're going on a kind of one size fits all, creatine, a good multivitamin, maybe a bit of ashwagandha might be a good start for most people.
Yeah. You mentioned the different things that Big Dave does. What would you say is the minimum amount of time someone should put in a week to be healthy? And as well, what are those things? Because you mentioned walking, but you had a different word.
A NEAT. So
okay.
Non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Okay. And then you have your lifting, you have your foam rolling, all of that. So what would be like, would you say this is the minimum requirement that people should do? Minimum
requirement or magic number?
What is magic number?
Magic number is like, if you could do this would be optimal. It's
okay.
Kind of magic number.
Maybe do both, because not everyone can hit the magic number.
Yeah.
But also maybe be realistic with a minimum, because
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So magic number, I think, would be about 3 resistance sessions a week, and maybe 1 or 2 cardio sessions where challenging cardio sessions. Doesn't have to be sort of 10 out of 10 conditioning, but fairly challenging cardio sessions. And then your NEAT can just be something like 10 to 12,000 steps a day. It's the magic number. So in terms of activity, that would be pretty good. Now, what's realistic for most people, if they're super busy, a couple of resistance sessions a week can be good, a couple of weight training sessions, and then maybe 1 cardio session. But the NEAT has got to be a non-negotiable. Okay. I think regardless of who you are, every single person should be doing 12K steps a day minimum. That's a non-negotiable I have with all clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you say 3 weight sessions or gym sessions a week. What are the expectations within a gym session? Can you pump it out within 30 minutes, just one leg, one upper body, and you're done? Or
You could, but most people can't kind of come in and pump it out at that sort of level that quickly. 45 minutes to an hour, three times a week would be optimal. As people get older, they don't necessarily need to do the generic bro splits. They could probably do 3 days of full body, especially if it's well programmed in a way that it kind of hits different parts, different days. Or, as you said, an upper body, lower body, full body, something like that would work quite well. If you can only do 2 days, 2 days full body with a gap between. If you can do more, maybe an upper lower full split. Then if you can do 4 days, you can get into more specific splits, push pull legs, additional day, something like that.
Yeah. And instead of you're already old or elderly, I'm like, which one's less offensive?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're
mature.
You're not that wise yet. Yeah. And start training. Let's turn the question around. You are in your 40s, you're in your 30s, you're in your 20s. What would you recommend so that, again, not to become an athlete, but you want to be healthy when you're more mature? If you want to be like Big Dave, but not start at the age of Big Dave.
Yeah. So if you're a bit younger, take the ego out of it. And obviously I was probably one of the worst people for this. You don't need to absolutely max out on every single thing every single time you go to the gym when you are younger. So most of those guys are going 6 days a week and they're just pushing everything to a 10 out of 10. Form is being compromised. No understanding of recovery or no respect for recovery. So I'd say when you're younger, respect recovery. Take your ego out of it, and you can have some 10 out of 10 days, but more often than not, save a rep or two in reserve or do an RPE 7 or 8 or something like that.
RPE 7 or 8 means you have like 2 or 3 reps in reserve.
So reps in reserve would be if you're talking about the sets. So you can go, I could probably get 10 here, but I'm going to stop at like 8 or 9. You shouldn't always do that. There is a time and a place to max out, but when you're learning, I don't think you should max out straight away. I think as you get more advanced, then the amount of times you can max out becomes more frequent. Yeah. But the problem with maxing out in your early days, when your technique and your form and your understanding of your own body isn't sound, you're setting yourself up for injuries.
Yeah. Could you maybe rephrase that and say you should go until technique failure?
Yes, yeah,
because people keep on thinking failure is like, I cannot move the weight.
Yeah.
Whereas technique failure is, I will do as many reps as I can do until the rep will not look the same way. I can move the weight, but
I can move the weight, but I will be compromising something to do it. Yeah. I don't think you should do that very often. So yeah, go to form failure, not total failure.
That is literally going back to cutting corners in the kitchen.
Yes, exactly. A form failure, not total failure, and respect recovery and nutrition. Don't drink pre-workouts. I know that goes against your powerlifting community, but I think pre-workouts do a lot more damage than people realize.
I think it's a tool that you should use wisely. There's someone at the gym, I feel like saying his name and call him out, but
someone, I think there's lots of people
who drinks I think 500 milligrams of caffeine a day. You told me.
I think I know who you're talking about as well. Yeah,
but the thing is, you keep on being tired the whole time because your sleep is bad and you think that is the norm. But if you stay low in caffeine and then the day you really need it, you can use that as a tool, whether it's in the office or at the gym.
I agree. Yeah. I totally agree. And just to jump back, I'll make this brief. When I was working in one particular kitchen, we were on anything from 7 to sometimes 10 cups of coffee a day, black coffee as well. And we were totally and utterly reliant on it. Every couple of hours, another cup of coffee. And it actually took my body 6 to 12 months to recover from the effects of that. So when I didn't realize it was happening at the time, but when I came out of the kitchen, I had total and utter fatigue, adrenal fatigue, all of that kind of stuff. My body just couldn't function. I felt lethargic all the time. And when I spoke to somebody about it, it's, you know, the lack of sleep and the using caffeine to that extent had just obliterated my body's normal workings. And people who are banging in 500 milligrams of caffeine a day, it's not until they stop doing it that they realize that damage is done. But the longer you go before you stop doing it, the more damage is being done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you know, I like a cup of coffee, don't get me wrong, but I'm not reliant on caffeine to get me through a workout or to get me through the day.
I think that's the key word, reliance. Yeah. And yeah, for the detoxing from the kitchen, I think I'll refer to Alfie PT, his episode with you as well.
Yeah.
I'll link it at the end of this episode. Can have you jump over before then. Yeah. Then one more thing that actually we haven't mentioned yet. You also competed in bodybuilding. Yeah,
I dipped my toes in the water, definitely.
One question on the topic, which then lets us segue into plant medicine. And we spoke about this once briefly at the gym. You stopped bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And you say you still train just as hard. Because something I keep on wondering, I think what I asked you back then is like, I don't know what I would do and how to keep training as hard once I think I've passed my prime. How would I stay motivated? Or if I would be happy, fully satisfied with who I am, and I don't have this drive to constantly improve myself through dissatisfaction, how do I keep on training hard? And you said that actually you train harder now after plant medicine and stopping bodybuilding than you did before.
Yeah, in some respects I do. I'd say I train better, if that makes sense. And I like it. I still so when I was doing bodybuilding, as I said, or in the physique stuff, it's very, 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 it's quite ego driven. And you're kind of chasing something impossible, right? Because you can always be a little bit bigger, you can always be a bit heavier, you can always be more. So you're chasing a much bigger picture of lots of different things. You're chasing everything all at the same time. When I train, you know, I still follow a little bit of a structure. I use an app to record my numbers, but the only thing that maybe I need to beat is maybe one number when I'm in the gym. So it's so much easier, right? Yeah. So there's a freedom that comes with that because it's so simplified. It's like, well, if I lifted this weight last week, if I just do one more rep this week, or I just increase by 1 kilo this week, like I've done it. And if I do that on one lift out of all of them, I've still beaten last week. If I do it on 2, great. If I do it on all my lifts, fantastic. But because there's the progress is always there, but there's nothing to actually aim for other than to just be 1% better. That's quite liberating. Yeah. And so with that comes, it's much easier to train consistently because you're not panicking about, oh, what if I don't do this? What if I don't do that? Oh, I need to do this. I need to train at this time. I have to do this. I have to do that. It's like, no, just go to the gym. Just be one thing. Just be 1% better than the last time you went to the gym. And it's easy. So in that sense, I train better. I don't do as much volume and as much frequency as I used to. Because I just don't quite have the desire. And that's something I struggle with a little bit. Just maybe what you're talking about is that if there isn't a big, massive goal to achieve, how long am I going to be satisfied with just improving this little number for no reason?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the transition I'm in at the moment, really. I don't know what I'm training for, but I still enjoy the training. So as long as I do it and I can do it a little bit better, why should I worry about anything else right now? It's just not as an important part of, I think maybe people like yourself, people like where I was, you know, whether you're a powerlifter, bodybuilder or something like that, it's a huge part of your identity. It's almost all of your identity outside of your work, right?
Yeah.
So you suddenly go, oh, well, if this disappears, my identity disappears. Now the training of myself isn't as much a part of my identity. So I don't need to worry about it being perfect. As long as it's still good and as long as it's still getting better, I'm happy with that. So it's almost like I've compartmentalized that to something a little bit smaller. And there's other things in my life that take premise over that. Whereas previously with the bodybuilding, that was the only thing that mattered, was going to the gym and looking a certain way.
Yeah.
Nothing else in my life was important.
Yeah. Do you still feel like you need to look a certain way because you're a PT?
Yeah, there's always that. I mean, yes, there is. And there's still the ego parts of, like, you know, I look back to some of the old bodybuilding pictures and I'm like, I wish I could kind of still look like that. But I wouldn't be able to do the other things. I wouldn't be able to have the freedoms in my life that I now have if I wanted to look like that all the time.
Yeah.
Everything is a trade-off. I wouldn't be able to enjoy food as much as I enjoy food now. And I would not have as much free time to spend with loved ones and friends. And yeah, so I wouldn't be able to do other projects on the side, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to travel as much as I do now. I travel a lot more since I don't do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And part of your travels is to Latin America.
Yes, beautiful segue. Beautiful segue there. Well done. Yes, yeah. Multiple trips to Latin America, to the Amazon jungle. Is that what you're getting into here? Yeah.
What have you been doing there?
So this gets onto what we call plant medicine, which is the plant medicine of the Amazon jungle, referred to as ayahuasca or yahe, but mainly ayahuasca is what it's called. And it's a very, very powerful psychotropic drink that is made from certain vines and plants in the Amazon and gives people life-changing experiences.
For the, I guess, longer story of how those trips were, I'll refer back to Alfie PT.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be very interested in how has it changed your life,
Mm-hmm.
and how would you recommend people use this, and also who should use it? Because I guess it's probably beneficial, but also, I mean, not everyone needs a PT, so I guess not everyone needs ayahuasca. But so, who needs to use it, or who would you recommend it to, and how has it impacted your own life?
I mean, I personally think everybody could benefit from it, but it's still not for everybody, because you need to be in a certain space to go and do it. It's a little bit like the gym, right? Everybody could benefit from the gym, but not everybody is in the right mindset to just go to the gym and do it. So the experiences I had, continue to have with this plant medicine, is it really, really rewires parts of your brain. It takes away potential things that were traumas and things that you didn't even know you had, things in your head, limiting beliefs, all of that kind of stuff. It rewires all of that in a unbelievable way. Now, the reason it appeals to me is I always think that when I started personal training, I really wanted to help people have obviously better lives. And the way I would do it would be through exercise. So my, again, quite naive thought process was, well, if everybody just comes to the gym, their whole life is going to get better. Because for me, that's what had happened. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
But like as soon as I started going to the gym, it's like, wow, everything's great. Life is brilliant. This is all I need to do. So initially I would train people, and then I would find that certain people benefited from it, and then certain people didn't seem to benefit from it. So then you learn, okay, nutrition is actually important, because it's not just about the training, it's the nutrition. So studied nutrition and thought, okay, now I have all the tools I need. So I can advise people on what to eat, and I can advise them on how to exercise, and now their life will definitely get better, right? And then you realize after a while, a couple of years of doing that there's a psychology element to this. Some people have things in their head that they think, that they believe, etc. So you study a little bit of psychology, and you're able to have deeper conversations with people. You become more empathetic. You find a way to anchor what you're doing to what the people value, so that they will, because you can tell somebody to exercise and eat better, but if something in their head is not quite right, they ain't going to do it for whatever reason. And so a couple of years of doing that, and I'm like, okay, now I'm really starting to impact people's lives in a positive way. And then eventually you meet some people who are so far gone mentally. They're so traumatized. They might be doped up to the eyeballs on antidepressants. I've had some people in the past that's just, horrendous to kind of see the effects that can have on people. And they're so unsure of themselves, and they're just really not in a good place mentally. And you think, there's nothing here that I can do to help this person, because whatever their trauma is in their head that's stopping them from making their own life better, I can't even touch it. I don't even know how to go there. And then when I discovered plant medicine and I saw the work it did with other people who were there, the lives it changed, the extreme turnarounds it would do in people, people who were addicts, to name but a few, people who had horrendously horrible upbringings and pasts, and all of that stuff was just kind of processed and taken out of them. I was like, oh wow, there is actually something that can do this. So that was the kind of appeal to it to me, and that's why I kind of continue to go back.
Doing research on you once mentioned that ayahuasca can have the equivalent result to like hundreds of hours of going to therapy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm curious, have you ever been to therapy yourself? And how does it compare?
How does it compare? So imagine it's 10,000 hours of therapy compressed into a few hours, and there is no switching off, no hiding. You don't have to tell your therapist something. You don't have to confront a part of yourself that the therapist is trying to get you to confront. This thing takes you to a place where it holds a mirror and says, right, we're gonna do this right now. That's why it's very, very powerful, and not, you have to be in the right kind of headspace to do it. But the experiences that you have, it comes with this kind of hallucinogenic, psychedelic effects as well. And it also comes with, sometimes there's a process of purging, like vomiting, crying, all of that stuff. So it's very physical, can be very physically taxing, and it is very, very difficult mentally, because you can fight it. You can not want to think about these things. If you have a trauma inside you that's kind of been buried, and then all of a sudden somebody pulls it out, that's very, very uncomfortable. In a therapy setting, you can kind of be like, rather not talk about this. But if that thing is just pulled to the forefront of your mind, and you're like, wow, I have to deal with this and process this right now, it's a lot. It is a lot. But the experience itself, I mean, again, you can reference back to Alfie's podcast for some details about what the experience feels like. That's how it differs from therapy. There's no escape, and it's compressed, right?
Yeah. How would you also, especially because this is not a regulated substance?
No, it's go on.
I'm wondering, how would you recommend anyone does it safely? Because Sure. I think it's not as easy as just flying to Peru or wherever.
No. So yeah, unfortunately, I have no idea why, but it's illegal in this country. It's decriminalized in parts of Europe. So there's places in Europe you can do it. It's completely legal in the parts of Central America where the vine grows, and it's a big part of their culture. The problem now is it's becoming super mainstream, and there is a lot of kind of money making goes with it, such as anything. So some people will go somewhere and they might have a really bad experience. You've definitely got to be in an environment where the people doing it hold the space and their intentions are pure and good.
But how do you find that? Because I think that's the problem. If you've never done it before, you don't know anyone who's done it. How do you find the right space?
Obviously, without plugging the place that I go to, the place that I go to in Peru comes from a certain lineage of somebody who was ultimately the person who kind of brought it to the mainstream. Very, very respected, one of the early practitioners of it. And so anything from that lineage, I would say, if something is really, really, really overly priced, I would say stay away from that. Because when I first wanted to do it, I just looked things up on the internet.
What is overly priced, by the way?
Thousands and thousands of pounds.
Okay.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds to go on do this like one experience.
Okay.
Whereas what the experience that I have, it's a fraction of that, and you spend 15 days in the jungle, and the people who make that money at this particular retreat, they invest that money back into buying more of the rainforest land to preserve the rainforest.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So exactly. So something like that to me seems pretty pure of intention, right? If somebody's like, oh, we've got this really bougie retreat where you get your own ensuite bathroom and it's £10,000 to go and do it for the weekend, it's like, that's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because the medicine is very sacred to the people of the jungle, and it holds a very special part of their culture, somebody who is trying to preserve the rainforest and investing the money into that seems like a pretty safe bet. You know that person's not being disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I think because again, it ties into the healers in the jungle who do this to truly heal people.
Yeah.
They say they don't want anything in return. So it isn't a business.
Yeah.
You meet these people and they're incredibly humble. They live very basic, humble lives, and they take you off into the jungle, do this work with you, and then that's it. And then outside of the jungle, you wouldn't even think that they were these people who do this work. And you have this kind of culture of, it's referred to as like California spirituality. Have you heard that term?
No, I've only heard California sober.
Yeah. Okay. So California spirituality is like bougie health retreats where everybody's wearing all the outfits, and it's like, oh, we're all so peace and love and yada yada yada, but actually they're all just a bunch of, and it's all just it's all fake, and they charge you extortionate amounts of money. So that, I say, that would be the big takeaway. Stay away from anything that seems really, really, really overpriced. I can always link people to the retreats in Peru that I work with anyway.
Okay.
So
yeah, you can plug all your if someone wants to reach out to you.
Yep.
But where can people find you?
So I have an Instagram page, and I have a just starting YouTube channel, which I will be putting this on as well. Yeah.
I'll link put your links in the description.
Great. That'd be good.
All right, we're coming to the end of the episode. If you were in my shoes,
yes,
and you would be interviewing yourself, what question would you ask yourself about anything? Doesn't have to be plant medicine, which we discussed.
No. What would I ask? What would I ask myself? I don't know. Whenever I'm asked stuff about myself, I get a little bit funny about it.
Too humble.
Yeah, I don't, because it's like, well, why am I any different to anybody else? So it's like, what question would I ask somebody else who was sitting there?
Maybe I can turn around the question. So it's maybe, I think everyone should be proud of at least one thing that they do.
Sure.
What is one thing you're proud of and you would like people to learn from you?
Something I'm proud of more recently, or something I've kind of always been proud of the last few years, is the work that I do with people, where I get to impact them in such a positive way that they will literally say, you have changed my life, or you have made my life better, or you have helped me with something or other. When you do work where that's kind of the feedback you get, I don't think there's anything to be more proud of than that, than having a positive impact on another person's life and being responsible for doing that. If I do that with people, hey, I'm super happy with that.
Does that go back to, as a man, you should find purpose, and then maybe that purpose should be something that benefits other people in life?
Yeah, for me, I mean, some people's purpose might be to have a family and do the best that they can for their family.
And it's still helping someone.
yeah, of course, you're raising your children and things to be good people, etc. You give back to your community. I just think when all's said and done, when you take away all the frills, like, what is really better than helping your fellow man? Really?
Yeah.
Like, name me something that is better than the feeling of a person telling you that you have changed their life, you've helped them out of a dark time, you were they were in a really bad place and you helped turn their life around, and they're really, really grateful because now, because of you, somebody else's life is much, much better. Like, I can't think of anything that's more rewarding than that. And so therefore, if I've done that with a few people, I'd like to be really proud of that.
I mean, that sounds like something you should be proud of.
Yeah,
So.
that's it. That's it. Simple answer. Sorry. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. With that said, I don't have any further questions.
Great.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Awesome day. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for teaching us about anything about the kitchen and personal training, how to change your career.
Yep.
And plant medicine.
Yes. More on plant medicine if people want to know on the other podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can't go into too much detail.
All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
Hey, you made it to the end of the episode. Before you leave, can you please do me this one simple favor and subscribe to the podcast? It's your free and easy way to show your support for all the hard work we put into every single episode, as well as help us reach more people and get new guests onto the show. Thank you for listening to the Untold Paths podcast.